حول العلاقة مع الناتو، كشف لافروف للحدث عن تقديم مقترحات في الأعوام الفائتة لإبرام معاهدات مع الحلف وواشنطن، وتتضمن معاهدات تأمين ضمانات أمنية لروسيا وأوروبا والناتو، لكنه وفق تأكيده قد تم رفض المقترحات، ومن بينها دراسة اقتراح روسي بإبرام معاهدة الأمن الأوروبي. فكان جواب الناتو وفق لافروف دائما رفضه توفير أي ضمانات أمنية خارج إطار حلفه. ويضيف وزير الخارجية الروسي للحدث أن موسكو قدمت العام الفائت خفض التوتر جراء اقتراب الناتو من الحدود الروسية، وفيما الناتو أجاب ألا داعي للخوف من الحلف لأنه دفاعي، إلا أن الناتو حرك خط الدفاع شرقا 5 مرات بعد تفكك حلف وارسو.
We have provided many proposals. During all these years, we have been initiating draft treaties, draft agreements with NATO, with countries of Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe. And lately, in December last year, we proposed another initiative to the United States and to NATO to conclude treaties with both of them on security guarantees to all countries in the Euro-Atlantic space without joining any military alliance. Every time we initiated these steps, they were basically rejected with more or less polite behavior. In 2009, we proposed European Security Treaty, which NATO refused to consider. And the treaty actually was about codifying something to which all OSCE countries subscribed at the top level. We don't consider ourselves at war with NATO, because this exactly would be another step, to increase the risks of what we just discussed. Unfortunately, NATO, it seems, considers itself to be at war with Russia. NATO and European Union leaders, many of them in England, in the United States, Poland, France, Germany, and of course, European Union chief diplomat Josep Borrell, they bluntly, publicly, and persistently say Putin must fail, Russia must be defeated. When you use this terminology, I believe you think that you are at war with the person whom you want to be defeated. Yes, they're supplying arms to Ukraine. We know the routes which are used for these purposes. And as soon as these weapons are reaching Ukrainian territory, they are fair game for our special operation. As I said, any weapon, any arms shipment on Ukrainian territory is legitimate target, because these weapons would be given to the regime who has a war against its own population, who conducts military offensive against civilians in the east of the country. And the sanctions is not something which we saw out of the blue. Sanctions have been with us for decades. We never lived a day in the history of the Soviet Union or the history of the Russian Federation when there were no sanctions. The wave of sanctions, which eventually showed the real face of the West, which, as far as I now understand, has always been Russophobic. To believe that this latest wave of sanctions is going to make Russia cry uncle and to beg, for being pardoned, those planners are lousy, and of course they don't know anything about foreign policy of Russia, and they don't know anything about how to deal with Russia.